What's going on, gamers? Today we're back with some more Diablo 2 Resurrected, and I'm going to be going over whether or not I think it's worth having some magic find in your build. Do you want to stack it up? Is it worth it? Is it going to net you an absolute abundance of rewards? Well, let's find out. Welcome back, you guys and girls. As always, for all things gaming, for all things Xbox, all the latest and greatest content, hints, tips, guides and builds, and just some fun gameplay and reviews, then why not hit that subscribe and bell icon. But for today, you're here to find out, for Diablo 2 Resurrected, should you be stacking up that magic find? Is it going to make life easier? Is it going to make you find an abundance more loot, and just make you get much stronger a lot faster? Now, just in case you don't know, Magic Find in Diablo 2 Resurrected basically means it gives you a chance of an increased drop rate to that loot rarity, meaning the higher Magic Find you've got, the more chance you've of finding better loot rarity items. For example, instead of finding that white or grey or even blue magic one, you'll instead hope that you'll be getting those drops of rares, uniques or gear sets. Magic Find can really help you out if you're trying to find those unique pieces that you just can't seem to get hold of. And the higher the Magic Find, the better drops you'll be getting as you're playing the game, because the chance of you getting these items will obviously go up. Now, although that sounds great in theory, there's a few things that you need to know for Magic Find in order to make it work in your favour, because just stacking it up absolutely through the roof isn't going to help you quite as much as you'd at first think. So if I jump over to my character, giving you a little example, just over here he is still gearing up, so don't worry, you will definitely be able to do better, but his resistances aren't too bad, they're all on the positive for hell, his damage isn't too bad with his skills, his health is quite stable, meaning you've got an all around okay build and he's not going to fall over. That's what you're aiming for. The main thing you're going to want to do with this game is make sure your build is viable for the content you're running. So if you're running hell in order to find those really nice drops, you're going to want to make sure that he's able to run it without falling over all the time, because it just won't work out in your favour and your time to kill will be really slow that way. If I go over to his advanced stats, just down here, he has 38% better chance of getting magic items. So again, a little bit on the low side, but his build is viable enough to not worry too much and I'm able to farm quite well. After one quick change of clothes, if I show you my character now, if you have a little look, his fire resistance at 16, his cold resist is -4, his lightning resist is -20, and I've lost a lot of plus skills and such, meaning my build overall is a little bit weaker. I'm not able to do as much damage, I'm going to fall over a little bit more often because my build's just not as strong or viable. However, if I bop down to the advanced stats, it's going to show you that I have 208% better chance of getting magic items. Now this is really nice, and in general you're probably going to be aiming for around about 200% better magic find most times, because that seems to be the sweet spot in general. But the main thing to remember is you should never be doing that at the cost of your build. If you're making your build absolutely awful, you're not going to be able to farm those items very fast anyway. You've also got to remember, even though you've got 208% now, if I'm not able to kill stuff, or I'm running away a lot, or I'm dying over and over, there's no real point to it. The time to kill is going to be really slow, and that's going to mean that your chance of looting items is also decreased. What you're going to want to make sure is that you've got a build that's really viable and you've got a nice bit of magic find around you, so that you can actually farm the content nice and easy, nice and fast, and kill stuff very quickly. Even though you'll have a lot of magic find, you still will have to do a lot of runs and a lot of farming in order to find what you want. Diablo is all about RNG, and the drop rates are very low, meaning that you may not find exactly what you're after straight away or at all if you're after those really high-end items. But what you've got to remember is, even though you could stack your magic find as high as you absolutely want, it's not going to help if your build suffers for it. So make sure your build is strong enough to run the content you're after. You may well be able to get away with doing something like I have here, chucking on some lower gear. If I'm going to go and farm, say for example, Nightmare rather than Hell, it could definitely work. But if I'm staying at that Hell difficulty, you're not going to want your resistances or your build to suffer, because you killing those enemies will actually take a lot more out of you than you think, and you will have a chance of dying, and you will have a chance of it taking a long time. In fact, if I jump over to this graph right here, brought to you by people a lot smarter than myself, it shows you, as you can see from that data just there, 200%, like I said, seems to be the biggest increase to your drop rate for those higher rarity items. So if you're after uniques and such, you're probably going to want to hit somewhere around 200% magic find. If you can get over that, that's great. but ultimately nothing is going to give you that initial gain of that 200%. So stacking up Magic Find through the roof may actually be detrimental if you're trying to make a really good build that can destroy a lot of enemies very fast and have nice Magic Find. You're best off making sure that your gear's really strong in order for you to have high damage and get through a lot more enemies a lot quicker. The time to kill is definitely, in my eyes, the best thing you're after. With a little bit of Magic Find as well, definitely works the best. So like I said, there are quite a few things out there that give you Magic Find. One classic example is this right here, the Gold Dagger. Now as you can see, this thing is absolutely outstanding for Magic Find. 100% better chance of getting magic items. Adds 1 to 5 damage, minus 5 to mana, and 2 to 19 damage. So as you can see, it is just one of the best items in the game for Magic Find, and just an item you probably don't want to be using in Hell because it doesn't bring much to the table. It's a bit bad, it doesn't give you anything you need stats wise except for the Magic Find. What you're going to want to do if you're running those higher difficulties is have some items on that aren't detrimental to your build, and in fact maybe even strengthen it. Some classic examples would definitely be things like rings. You can get some great rare rings, so as you can see here, that one's not bad whatsoever. Gives me a little bit of cold resist, gives me a little bit of poison resist, 11% better chance of getting magic items, and 13 to strength with 85 to mana. Also it's got 1 maximum damage. There are definitely better rings out there, but even in the rare category you can find some really nice ones that have got some good stats on them with a little bit of Magic Find, and you can chuck straight into your build. Whereas the complete opposite to that would probably be something like the Gold Wrap. This right here gives me 10% increased attack speed, plus 43% enhanced defense, plus 25 defense, 64% extra gold from monsters, and 30% better chance of getting magic items, plus 2 to light radius. So you would be chucking this on just for farming purposes. It's not really going to help your build out too much, and there's definitely things out there that are a lot better. I would say if you can, some items to look out for, which unfortunately are very hard to get hold of and highly sought after, but things like the Shaco and things like the Enigma will definitely be best in slot in a lot of builds because they've got great Magic Find and they just make your build a lot stronger. Of course, if you can't get them, look out for things like rare items. Those yellow items may well roll some nice Magic Find and have some good stats on them that you'll be able to put in your build that can also help you to do some runs. So just over here I've even got a blue item on because it gives me plus 3 elemental skills on my amulet and 27% better chance of getting magic items. Obviously it hasn't got a faster cast rate, it hasn't got any health or anything, but that right there can definitely help you to get ahead, and like I said, it's also just a magic item, meaning you can quite easily get hold of things such as this even if it's not exactly the same. A few more things to look out for are the fact that Magic Find does not in the slightest help you find runes. Runes drop through you just absolutely mowing down an abundance of enemies. So anywhere there's a lot of enemies take out, that's where you're going to have a chance of getting a rune drop because you're destroying lots of mobs and a lot of enemies at the same time. The more enemies you can get through, the more chance you've got of a rune dropping. Magic Find does not help that in the slightest, so if you're trying to get your Magic Find up because you want to get some nice runes for those Runewords, definitely not going to help you with that at all. Also, with your Magic Find, however much you have on, it only applies to the person that's killed the enemy. So the last hit on the enemy, if you're the one with the high Magic Find, will definitely help with the drop rate. If you had say 800 Magic Find and you've been hitting it all the way along and then someone else gets the last hit with 0 Magic Find, it's not going to apply any of what you have on, meaning that in those group encounters it definitely doesn't work in your favour unless you've got a nice team together and you've worked out who's going to be doing the last hit. All in all, is Magic Find worth it? Yes, 100%. I would say it's honestly probably best most times if you're soloing things, and if you can get up to around about 200 plus without absolutely nerfing your build, it's definitely worth it because you'll see a lot more drops and it will just make the game a little bit more fun because you'll be seeing a lot more of those unique items and such dropping on the ground as you're playing the game over, or if you're farming that high level content. But definitely don't nerf your build or make it bad in any way just to chuck Magic Find on. It will make your time to kill the enemies a lot slower, meaning that you're not going to be getting it any faster anyway, so you may as well just take the Magic Find off and make your build a bit stronger so you can complete the content a bit quicker. So going back to the Gold Dagger, just to explain how Magic Find actually works, say for example I took off everything to do with Magic Find, he says, hoping that he's got enough space.
Few moments later.
Now, the only thing that I have on at the moment with Magic Find is this right here. So if I went over to my character stats again, as you could see just down here, 100% better chance of getting magic items. And that's because I've got that gold dagger on. Now, even though that sounds really high, the thing you've got to remember, it's 100% of whatever the drop rate is. So whatever a mob's set chance to drop those specific rarities are. For example, if you beat a mob and its chance to drop those magic items are 10%, its rare items at 5%, its set items at 2, and maybe its uniques at 1, they would in fact all double because you've got 100% extra magic find. But from this you can probably tell why it's so hard to get the exact uniques and such that you're after. So you have to understand that even though you're going to be putting on some really nice gear to give yourself that magic find, it's still going to take a while to find some nice gear because the drop rates are very low. Often people in Diablo 2 will try to boost their magic find as high as possible because they're going to be running the content or specific bits of content tens to hundreds of times. So be wary, don't think you're going to chuck on 200 magic find and you're going to find stuff just jumping out at you every couple of seconds. You're still going to have to work for that gear. Right, well you gamers, hopefully that's helped a few of you guys and girls out. I'll be bringing a lot more content out on Diablo 2 and all of the latest and greatest games for Xbox, but for now what I'm going to do is leave you with a few items that you may want to look into that can really help with your build and your magic find. As always, for all things gaming, for all things Xbox. Take care,